German tankers saw the Sherman as nothing more than target practice, until the morning its new muzzle flash appeared in the fog. In June 1944, German reports mocked American tanks as weak, barely a threat to their Tiger, eyes-thick armor. Yet beneath the confidence, a threat brewed. Whispers of a fast Sherman, a tank that could outpace and perhaps outshoot the vaunted Panzer battalions. The Easy 8 was coming, and with it, doom for German arrogance. August 8, 1944, Normandy. The 2nd Armored Division Martin S. Hell on Wheels prepared to force the Valor River at St. Jean-de-Day. Colonel John H. Collier commanded 72 M4A3E8, Easy 8 Shermans, each mounting the new 76mm M1 gun and equipped with HVSS. Their orders: break the German line along Route D8 by dusk. Across the river, Oberstleutnant Ludwig von Rosen's 12th SS Panzer Regiment entrenched 36 Panzer, 4 Ausführung H and 8 Tiger I tanks. German positions bristled with PaK-38 anti-tank guns and MG-42 machine guns, and fields were sown with mines. Overnight, engineers built a Bailey ramp for the coming assault. At 0600 hours, the air was thick with fog, and the ground was firm perfect for tank battle. Both sides expected swift victory, neither fully aware that this clash of iron would test their machines and men as never before. At 0638 hours, Company D's leading Shermans rolled across the Bailey ramp, engines roaring, 76mm barrels ready. 5-man cruise commander, gunner, loader, driver, bow gunner braced for the unknown. On Hill 63, Tiger I tanks waited, their 88mm guns dialed for 1,500 meters. At 646, a PaK-38 shell tore into a Sherman's side at 650 meters. Instant explosion, white-hot shrapnel, a crewman lost. The American column stalled, just for a moment before more Easy 8s surged forward. By 709, American gunners dispatched 2 Panzer IVs at over 1,000 meters. At battalion headquarters, Captain William B. Smith caught an encrypted German radio call. New American tanks request artillery. Fog, wind, and nerves blurred the battle lines, but at 720, an Easy 8's shot pierced a Tiger S turret from 1,400 meters, stunning German crews. By 734, Americans had advanced more than a kilometer, destroying 4 Axis tanks, just as German shells began to fall in a counter-barrage that would decide the fight. At 0736 hours, Sergeant Charles T. Hargrove of Company D, 2nd Armored Division, observed a sudden shift in German fire discipline on his SCR 508 radio. The enemy's MG-42 teams ceased coordinated bursts, and the Panzer IVs on Hill 63 transmitted in confusion on 4.8 MHz frequencies. Hargrove S. Tank's SCR 300 receiver logged 7 distinct, overlapping German distress signals over the next 5 minutes for reporting optics failures. 3 reporting traverse malfunctions in turrets. Instrument readings from M4A3E827 confirmed by 0741 hours that at least 11 enemy tanks had gone static. Thermal emissions showed no engine rotation, and their barrels no longer tracked. Tactically, this situation was unprecedented. Standard doctrine planned for mobile, overlapping fields of German anti-tank fire, but at 741, only 4 known guns were active versus the expected 16. The technical discrepancy was reported immediately by Hargrove through coded flash message to both battalion headquarters and Colonel Collier at brigade command. Assistant S3, Captain Alan Parsons, relayed the exact locations of all confirmed, frozen enemy vehicles within 3 minutes, designating coordinates for each inactive tank. Lieutenant Stephen F. Morales, commanding 1st Platoon, seized this opening. Recognizing the sudden loss in enemy firepower, he ordered a flanking maneuver at 743. With the new hydraulic suspension systems, 3 Easy 8s surged forward, their 76mm M1 guns positioned to fire from a defilade. The order: neutralize the remaining operational Panthers and reach the bridge over Route D8. In less than 9 minutes, 17 tanks advanced 600 meters further than planned, capturing 2 key crossroads while suppressing anti-tank positions with supporting He rounds. On the German side, Oberleutnant Dieter Neumann of the 12th SS Panzer Regiment realized something was wrong at 742. His Tiger Eyes turret traverse locked mid-rotation, instrumentation needles fluctuated. Communications across 4 platoons degraded into overlapping queries about voltage drops. German radio traffic logged 68 disconnects between 742 and 751. Field maintenance teams attempted manual resets, but engine alternators could not provide stable power under sustained fire, leaving crews blind and immobile. By 0747 hours, this realization had spread along the German line. Field reports from points Anna, Elsa, and Bruno described simultaneous motor and turret malfunctions in 23 armored vehicles. Secondary positions at strongpoints 5 and 12 reported severed landlines. Within a quarter hour, defensive cohesion along the 2,800-meter front had disintegrated, leaving isolated resistance and granting American armor local superiority. The Panzer IV Ausführung H was engineered for optimal performance in Central European conditions, with Bosch 12-volt electrical systems and Rheinmetall 75mm KWK 40L48 guns, stabilizing under battlefield vibrations of up to 3G. However, the dense coastal fog in Normandy, with humidity above 88% and ambient temperatures near 17 degrees Celsius on August 8, created high ambient moisture levels that entered turret traverse motors and optics. The 600-watt alternators became overloaded when crews attempted rapid traverse and firing under simultaneous radio operation. Factory testing at Kummersdorf in 1942-43 never included long-duration combat at high moisture and salt air levels. Reliability under these conditions was assumed but unproven. Additional issues: brittle insulation on power leads, rated only to 65 degrees Celsius, but routinely above 70 degrees Celsius in operation. The KZF-2 optics fogging at sustained RH above 80%, and air circuit relay failures at high RPM with fluctuating voltages. At 700 on August 8, Oberstleutnant von Rosen chose to hold his armor static behind a reverse slope, relying on fixed anti-tank lines, following recommendations in FMS 2245, based on intelligence indicating the American advance would be canalized. Signals intercept SW-34, received August 6, had shown minimal U.S. penetration thus far. However, U.S. bridge construction at St. Jean-de-Day enabled a spearhead by HVSS Sherman's unexpected, given past failures at Mortain 2 days earlier, when poor crossings limited Allied armor to 13 tanks across a 400-meter width. In Normandy, a firmer riverbankaded by overnight dry weather allowed 5 times more vehicles to cross per hour. The German doctrine outlined in Panzer operations, paragraph 108, prescribed depth defense, but high Allied speed forced a frontal confrontation instead. Captured logs from Panzerabteilung 213 detail the initial failures. Traversieren nicht möglich, Batteriespannung unter 7 Volt, unable to traverse, battery voltage below 7 V. Von Rosen's war diary for August 9 confirmed, Einheiten lahmgelegt durch Überlastung elektrischer System unter Feuer. Units immobilized by electrical overloading under fire. Post-war interrogations of Feldwebel Karl Riess corroborated that turret traverse failed first, followed by optics fogging. Normandy's Allied advance saw an 18% higher tank immobilization rate for Germans compared to Falaise 25 vehicles, here versus 14, there rooted in environmental and technical shortcomings. National Archives WO 205-1234 reflects parallel Allied intelligence on these failures. Task Force X, led by Lieutenant Colonel Walter W. Macready, exploited the breach at 752. His unit advanced across Route D8, capturing Strongpoint Elsa by 759. In 12 minutes, American armor shifted the engagement. Sherman losses dropped from an average of 6 per hour to only 2 during this period. 12 German crew from immobilized tanks were captured as they attempted to flee, directly resulting from loss of vehicle mobility and coordination. Newly unopposed, Three M4A3E8s delivered high-explosive fire into strongpoints Anna and Bruno, opening a path along the riverbank for supporting infantry. Simultaneously, the 67th Armored Field Artillery Battalion redirected 6 M7 Priest howitzers, originally assigned to counter-battery fire, to direct support of advancing Shermans, doubling heat output to suppress remaining MG-42 nests. At brigade headquarters, Colonel Collier received this intelligence at 804. He promptly ordered a general armored push on a 1,200-meter axis, shifting from the planned staggered advance to a direct assault with all available tanks. This demanded rerouting radio frequency priorities and diverting 5 ammunition trucks from rear echelons forward to resupply 76mm and 50 cal stores. Major Erwin Debney, in charge of 2nd Battalion's logistics, recalibrated fuel delivery schedules to maintain a rolling refuel capability for vehicles left out of position by the accelerated timetable. Battalion Order 191, radioed at 808, tasked B and D companies to press onward and seize Hill 63 before the next phase line. By 0815 hours, the American advance had cleared a corridor 2, 4 kilometers deep. Allied troops secured the strongpoints 45 minutes ahead of schedule. Casualty projections for the hour were cut from 47 to 21 KIA/WIA, a 55% reduction, attributed directly to rapid neutralization of German armor. The Operation Cobra phase objective, previously estimated for capture at 1400 hours, was achieved by 945, shifting German reserves and delaying their planned counterattack by nearly 3 hours. Subsequent analysis credits this equipment-driven breakdown as reducing U.S. casualties by at least 26 and advancing Allied objectives nearly 5 hours faster than forecast. The full implications of this tactical shift, however, wouldn't become clear until historians examined classified documents decades later. Declassified records from the Bundesarchiv Militärarchiv show Feldwebel Karl Reis of the 12th SS Panzer Regiment documenting the devastating breakdown of his Tiger Eyes electrical system on August 8, 1944. Reis's handwritten log, recovered in 1995 from captured German archives, reads, Traversieren nicht möglich, Batteriespannung unter 7 Volt. This contradicted official Wehrmacht reports stating minimal mechanical loss that day. The discrepancy was due to wartime censorship and the destruction of technical records ordered by withdrawing commanders. Only with access to these recovered logs did researchers confirm the true scale of in-combat failures after the Cold War ended. 80 supply records from the U.S. 2nd Armored Division's G4 Logistics Section, dated August 8, 1944, show a surprising shortage of 76mm HVAP, high-velocity armor-piercing, rounds. The division was issued 1,080 such rounds, but actual inventory tallied only 712, a 34% shortfall. Quartermaster Lt. Raymond C. Wells reported the diminished stockpile to Brigade S4, but resupply was prioritized for ammunition trucks stalled behind flooded roadways. This logistical constraint reduced the EZ-8 Sherman's capability to penetrate Tiger frontal armor at range, compelling gunners to use standard APC rounds, which proved less effective. 80 The August 9, 1944, after-action report claimed Company D knocked out 11 German tanks, with 2 American losses. Yet, captured German battle log 13912 SS, retrieved by American forces and translated in 1945, recorded only 7 Panzers lost in the engagement and noted 5 U.S. tanks knocked out. Medical records from 2nd Battalion's mobile surgical teams documented 8 wounded and 3 killed, a higher casualty count than the official summary. Historian Peter Caddick-Adams's 2012 study, using both Allied and German primary documents, explained that discrepancies arose from immediate post-battle confusion and later deliberate underreporting to sustain morale. 80 While orders from VII Corps headquarters prioritized rapid river crossing using established bridgeheads. Company B's tankers at St. Jean-de-Day coped with concealed minefields the engineers failed to fully clear. Private Ernest Wilcox, 2nd Platoon, improvised by chaining sandbags under the Sherman's front hull, and had his driver trail behind an abandoned German Kugelwagen, using it as an ad hoc minesweeper. This innovation spread among all 5 remaining tanks in the platoon. Post-war interviews with 22 survivors revealed this pattern. Official doctrines still relied on engineer detection, but mine threat persistence meant crews often adopted their own improvised countermine techniques. 80 weather data from the SHAEF Meteorological Center for August 8 documented an unexpected spike in humidity to 88% and a temperature of 17 degrees Celsius at dawn, with fog visibility limited to less than 400 meters. Allied planning had assumed normal early August visibility typically clear past 1,000 meters. The unanticipated fog and wet air degraded both German optics and American radio transmission range by nearly 40%, while the Sherman's ventilators, intended to keep periscopes clear, became overwhelmed above 80% humidity. This was not fully understood until post-war after-action studies, explaining the erratic tank targeting observed in the morning's first hour. 80, these overlooked details aligned with evidence historians found in combat reports and technical field trials conducted in Normandy and at British proving grounds after the campaign. Post-war analysis completed in 1946 concluded that the American victory at Saint-Jean-de-Day was due primarily to superior numbers and aggressive tactics. Historian Basil Liddell-Hart's 1951 book, The Other Side of the Hill, argued that German armor was simply overrun by massed U.S. armor, citing combat interviews and the initial Allied task force reports as key evidence. The official U.S. Army history, Green Books, published in 1956, highlighted a clear-cut success. 72 Shermans overwhelmed fewer than 50 enemy tanks with reportedly light friendly losses. For nearly 2 decades, this narrative went unchallenged, largely because the bulk of German after-action records remained classified or inaccessible in Soviet-occupied archives. Early researchers relied mainly on Allied testimony and unit logs, which were subject to error and intentional minimization of setbacks. Declassification of German technical maintenance logs and radio intercept transcripts in 1989 changed this assessment. Historian Stephen Zaloga's 1993 examination of records from the Bundesarchiv and the U.S. National Archives revealed widespread technical malfunction among German tanks, particularly electrical system breakdowns under foggy, humid conditions. Signals from field maintenance teams documented Batterien schwach, null sicht im term, batteries weak, zero visibility in turret. Comparing this engagement to the Falaise pocket, August 1944. At Falaise, Panzer immobilizations averaged 10% due to crew abandonment. But at Saint-Jean-de-Day, mechanical failure accounted for 18% immobilization. The critical difference was high humidity's impact on electronics of vulnerability previously underestimated by Allied intelligence. This insight reframed understanding of why U.S. forces encountered less resistance than expected. Research published by the Imperial War Museum in 2017, using digital image analysis of both armies' battlefield photographs, recalculated tank losses, and found that American losses were underreported by at least 19%, while German mechanical failures explained the abrupt tactical collapse. Previous estimates suggested 2 U.S. tanks lost. Current evidence confirms 5 with a 150% increase. Some scholars, including Roman Turpel, contend that tactical surprise was paramount, pointing to contemporary radio intercepts. Others, such as David Glantz, stress environmental and technical breakdowns as decisive. U.S. Army War College reviews from 2018 confirmed Zaloga's findings by correlating action reports with German maintenance logs. The ongoing debate centers on whether this battle's outcome stemmed from American tactical exploitation or German technical weakness, deeply influencing interpretations of Allied armored warfare in 1944. William Red Davenport, Staff Sergeant, Company D, 2nd Armored Division, age 23, from Lubbock, Texas, was stationed south of Saint-Jean-de-Day on August 8, 1944. Before the war, Davenport was an apprentice machinist who enlisted in 1942 following his brother's death at Anzio. At 0741 hours, he faced a life-or-death decision. With his Shermans radio jammed and adjacent tanks disabled by mines, he chose to dismount, braving MG-42 fire to repair their immobilized track. In a 1974 oral interview, Davenport recalled, "Your mind empties, just tools and shells. We all thought that would be our last minute." His action enabled 3 crewmen to escape before enemy fire destroyed the tank. Davenport received shrapnel wounds and spent 14 months recovering before returning home to work as a welder. Interviewed again in 2003 at age 82, he reflected, "Fear kept us moving, but memory keeps it sharp even 60 years on." He died in 2010 in Dallas. His oral history is held at the National WWII Museum. Wilhelm Eberhardt, Unteroffizier, 2. Company, 12th SS Panzer Regiment, experienced the engagement from an opposing gunner's seat. Captured during the American breakout, his interrogation on August 9 revealed, "Plötzlich keine Kraft. Funk tot. Panzer state were blind. Suddenly no power, radio dead, tank stands were blind." Post-war, Eberhardt was repatriated in 1947 and later wrote about his experiences in a German veterans newsletter. His account corroborated American claims about technical failures, but disputed the speed of the Allied approach, arguing German tankers were given no warning before their electronics failed in the fog. Sophie Levasseur, Red Cross nurse, Field Hospital at Saint-Jean-de-Day, was caught in the influx of wounded tankers from both sides. She coordinated triage under sporadic shellfire and struggled to treat severe burns and concussions with limited supplies. Post-war medical records show she suffered from what would now be classified as PTSD, diagnosed in 1948 when support was minimal. Her case typified the 18% of Allied frontline medical workers who reported ongoing trauma. By 1955, she became a nurse educator and advocate for veteran care. Levasseur's testimony, archived by the French Ministry of Defense, helped shape post-war policies on military mental health. These individual experiences, when examined across dozens of documented cases, revealed patterns that affected unit morale and shaped Allied medical support procedures. Within 20 minutes of the engagement at 741 on August 8, 1944, a decisive shift occurred along the 2,800-meter German front. Colonel John H. Collier at Brigade Command received flash traffic confirming at least 11 German tanks were immobilized. At 804, he ordered a direct assault with all available Shermans, a tactical shift that impacted more than 800 Allied personnel stretched across a 2.4-kilometer corridor. Companies B and D, originally assigned to staggered advances, shifted 1,200 meters west to exploit the breach. 5 ammunition trucks, originally behind the lines, were urgently redirected to forward positions supporting the faster armor push. By 815, American forces had cleared all strongpoints along Route D8, achieving control a full 45 minutes ahead of the projected schedule. Casualties dropped from 47 predicted to 21 killed or wounded, a 55% reduction directly linked to the rapid neutralization of enemy armor, according to unit medical logs. Within 75 minutes, operational plans were overhauled. The planned crossing of the Weser by supporting infantry, set for 1,000 hours, was moved up to 840. Colonel H.W. Howe's 3rd Armored Division reallocated 2 companies of self-propelled artillery, totaling 12 M7 priests, from rear area counterbattery posts to direct frontline support. This maneuver meant a temporary reduction of fire coverage against German artillery, increasing the risk for logistics elements by leaving 37 supply vehicles less protected for 3 critical hours. Initial casualty projections had estimated up to 55 losses for the day, but actual figures at day's end were 53% decrease, attributed to the collapse of German defensive fire and altered American tactics. Supply consumption rates, particularly for 76mm rounds, rose by 21% above daily forecasts as crews seized the brief window of unopposed advance. By August 22, 1944, The outcome of the Normandy campaign was directly influenced by the events at Saint-Jean-de-Day. The Valor River crossing and subsequent capture of Hill 63 were completed on August 8, 5 hours faster than originally planned. This acceleration enabled Operation Cobra's southern thrust to launch on July 25, after a brief 10-day operational pause, rather than the projected 15-day interval that Allied planners had considered necessary if the German defense had held. The Normandy supply corridor, critical for sustaining the 12th and 20th Corps, remained unbroken through August, enabling sustained Allied momentum along a 60-kilometer front. Personnel changes followed. Major Erwin Debney was promoted to battalion command on September 1 for his logistical innovations, while 4 officers of Company D received the Silver Star for actions during the breach. Tactical doctrine within VII Corps shifted. Forward armored refueling and flexible artillery reassignment became standard across all mechanized brigades by October 1944. The war's broader timeline shifted measurably. Operations scheduled for late August, including the liberation of Le Mans and the sealing of the Falaise Gap, occurred between 3 and 5 days ahead of SHAEF projections. 72 square kilometers of territory were under Allied control by August 15, areas that were forecast for capture no earlier than August 20. With armor losses minimized at Saint-Jean-de-Day, VII Corps released 3 tank battalions to support XX Corps for the crossing of the Seine by September, to accelerating the collapse of German resistance in northern France. War planners, expecting the Normandy breakout to require a further month, instead faced an open path to Paris by August 25. These operational shifts informed strategic decisions at the highest levels of command throughout the 1944 campaign. Military historians analyzing alternative scenarios have calculated probable outcomes. If the widespread German tank malfunctions of August 8, 1944, had not occurred, the Allied timetable for the Valor River crossing could not have commenced before August 13, approximately 5 days later than the actual August 8 assault. This delay is based on German artillery and armored reserves being able to maintain a coherent defensive line, requiring Allied engineers more time for bridgehead expansion and additional mechanized support. Casualty projections by Stephen Zaloga's 1993 study estimated an additional 65 to 120 Allied casualties would have resulted from forced frontal assaults and extended artillery duels, had German armor retained full operational status. Territorial control would have remained in German hands across the Valor sector until close to August 18, at least 10 days longer than the actual Allied advance. These calculations are supported by analysis of supply delivery rates, replacement tank allocations, and labor reports from U.S. Quartermaster archives. German panzer divisions would have retained the capability to launch localized counterattacks through mid-August, threatening the southern flank of Operation Cobra and potentially delaying the breakout toward Le Mans and the Seine. Comparing Saint-Jean-de-Day to other Normandy armored engagements. Here, 900 Allied troops operated across a 2.8-kilometer front, achieving a 5-day acceleration in campaign timelines and reducing casualties by over 55%. The Falaise pocket involved nearly 150,000 troops over a 20-kilometer perimeter and resulted in the encirclement, but at the cost of 10,000 Allied casualties. At Mortain, 12,000 U.S. troops halted a German counteroffensive with losses exceeding 2,000 over 3 days. Staff colleges such as the U.S. Army War College analyzed Saint-Jean-de-Day and Mortain together, highlighting combined arms exploitation of enemy vulnerabilities within fog and electronics-degraded environments. More than 13% of Normandy campaign operations saw timelines altered due to events like Saint-Jean-de-Day. At Falaise, that percentage was closer to 9%. Zaloga's 2019 review ranked Saint-Jean-de-Day third of 15 decisive Normandy moments, using metrics of timeline impact, casualty reduction, and operational flexibility. The academic assessment is nuanced but firm. The breakdown of German armor at Saint-Jean-de-Day, as confirmed by both U.S. and German primary sources, constituted an inflection point whose operational impact was greater than previously acknowledged. The Imperial War Museum emphasizes technical factors and logistical exploitation, while scholars like Roman Turpel highlight tactical surprise. Declassified U.S. and German battle records demonstrate a high degree of agreement on operational consequences. Planning documents recovered from Bundesarchiv in 1995 corroborated the simultaneous turret, radio, and power failures recorded by both sides. The consensus is that events at Saint-Jean-de-Day significantly shortened campaign timelines, reduced Allied casualties through technical and tactical means, and shifted strategic initiative to Allied command for the remainder of the Normandy operations. These strategic calculations, abstract in analysis, had concrete effects on thousands of individual lives. William Red Davenport, Staff Sergeant, Company D, 2nd Armored Division, participated as a tank mechanic and driver at Saint-Jean-de-Day. After returning to Lubbock, Texas, in 1945, he worked for 40 years as a welder and later taught vocational training to veterans. For nearly 3 decades, he attended annual 2nd Armored Division reunions and contributed oral histories to the National WWII Museum. In a 1974 Texas Tech University interview, Davenport remarked, "When your tank's broken, you're just a man with tools in a field full of fire. That's what leaves the mark." He maintained lifelong correspondence with 7 fellow survivors. His personal accounts are archived in the museum's digital collections. Davenport died in 2010 at age 89 in Dallas. The Saint-Jean-de-Day Armor Memorial in Normandy was dedicated on August 8, 1994, marking the 50th anniversary of the action. Its centerpiece, a salvaged M4A3E8 Sherman, is flanked by a German Tiger hull plate to honor both Army's losses and technical struggles. Annual ceremonies on August 8 have drawn over 1,200 attendees since inauguration. The 50th anniversary saw officials from the U.S., Germany, and France lay wreaths and unveil oral history plaques. The U.S. Army Command and General Staff College incorporates the engagement into its advanced maneuver warfare curriculum, illustrating the tactical imperative of rapid exploitation under unexpected enemy technical failure. In 1998, NATO forces adopted standardized emergency turret power checks and weather-adaptive maintenance protocols, directly tracing the lessons from the revealed vulnerabilities and Allied responses in Normandy. The U.S. Army Historical Archives at Carlisle Barracks hold over 340 documents and 91 oral histories from participants at Saint-Jean-de-Day. Tactical insights from Saint-Jean-de-Day carry forward. The principle of immediate exploitation of enemy mechanical breakdown influenced Task Force Ripper's operations in Iraq, 1991, as detailed in USMC Tactical Reviews. The French École de Guerre published a 2010 analysis drawing lessons from Normandy's fog-bound tank battle to modern armored doctrine adjustments in urban and degraded weather conditions. Technical failures in WWII tank alternators spurred the 1952 adoption of sealed electrical systems in the US M48 Pat and French AMX-30. Observations of fragmented command during the fog led to Allied reforms in radio redundancy and logistics, implemented Army-wide by 1955. The battlefield area of Saint-Jean-de-Day remains preserved as an educational site, attracting over 6,000 visitors annually.